The following is a Spirit Street production.
Big 12 had an interesting week in football this week. They were 4-5 against other Power 4 teams, but there were some big wins, but also some big misses. We're going to take a look at that and a lot more today on Big 12 Insiders Game Day.
Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show, presented by Synergy Financial Partners. Now let's go to booming North Texas, home of Studio 73. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Big 12 Insiders. It's your man, Brien Hanley. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Looks like Cody Nagel may have bumped off here. We'll get him back here in a second. But Cody Nagel is joining us. There he is, who covers 24/7 sports, or covers the Big 12 for 24/7 sports. We got Mike Casaza, covers West Virginia for 24/7 sports. Same with Cole Carmody. He covers Kansas State for 24/7 sports. And then our insider, Michelle Bodkin. We appreciate all you guys being in here. What is going on, people?
Just hanging out, getting ready for the next football weekend.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it was a weird week in the Big 12 this past week. They went 4-5 against other Power 4 schools. Cody, I'll start with you. I thought it was going to be a good weekend. Started off with BYU. I know SMU is new. And again, if you ask anybody from SMU, they're going to tell you they're a great school, great team, all that, yada, yada, yada. They literally got physically beat up. But I thought it was going to be a good week. And I guess technically it ended in a good week with Arizona State, beating Mississippi State. But it was kind of a mixed bag, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was definitely some, sort of disappointing results or disappointing performances from some of those top teams. You think about Kansas State. They were on upset alert against Tulane or at Tulane. Oklahoma State, I'm still not sure how they won that game. I think that was more Arkansas probably losing it than Oklahoma State winning it. And what was the other one? Colorado getting kind of embarrassed at Nebraska. And Arizona was not great against Northern Arizona either. So I think there was some results or performances there that were definitely kind of disappointing.
You're on mute, Mike.
My fault there. I've been studying.
You're all good.
I've been studying up on not how to do this properly, but I Pitt this week as West Virginia plays Pitt. I have no idea how Cincinnati lost that game.
Yeah. No
idea. There's 20 minutes left. They're up by 3 touchdowns, and Kiner gets 4 carries the rest of the way.
Yeah.
It's out a full series. He rips off a 26-yard run. They throw 3 straight incomplete passes. It's not great for the Scott Satterfield era right now.
No. Cincinnati fans are mad at me because I keep putting them last in the power rankings. I said, but you deserved it after this past week. You absolutely deserved it. I don't care what Houston did. I don't care about all that. It was a Scott Satterfield special. I'm like, come on, man. Literally, I saw tweets, guys, where Cincinnati people are asking, are they putting the threes in? How many guys are they going to get on the field? And the next thing you know, they lose 28-27, Michelle. That was bad.
Yeah, I mean, that's just an unacceptable performance when you're kind of rolling the way that you are, and to have it come off the wheels like that, it's just not okay. So I don't know what else to say. It's just not okay.
And Brian, I don't think anybody's talked about this yet. Kansas. I mean, that's another team with super high expectations coming into the season. Hitting the road to Illinois, they enter that game as a 4-point favorite. And I think a lot of people around the conference anyway are still, we're pretty high on Kansas. I don't know how many people still are high on Kansas, but Jalen Daniels, 3 interceptions in that game. He did not look like himself. And Illinois, after dropping by double digits in Lawrence last year, ends up winning that game. And I mean, should we be surprised at this point with Jeff Grimes, his play calls? I know Kansas fans are really upset about that this week. Another guy who's from the Big 12 was formerly at Baylor. Doesn't look like much has changed over there, Brian.
By the way, that Kansas schedule is not fun. And I talked to some people there and they don't like it because they played UNLV in the bowl game last year. Right. They have them this week. And then they played Illinois last year too. So that offense is not fun to prepare for. If you get some reps against them, it's a lot easier. And Illinois looks like they're much improved on defense. They were pretty average last year, but like it's a lot easier when you know what pitches are coming too.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome back, Michelle. Yeah, there was the thing about Kansas that messed me up is I was high on Kansas. I guess I'm still high on Kansas, but Cody, I just thought that was a game. Illinois is not very good, and I don't care that there were 60,000 people there. I just don't want to hear that. If you're the team that everybody thinks that you're supposed to be, you got to go win that game, don't you?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it kind of falls on Jalen Daniels and just kind of his not performing up to expectations. You know, when he was healthy these past few years, I mean, he was arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12, and he's definitely doesn't look like that right now. And I don't know if that's just the new coordinator with Andy Kotelnicki gone, and he's not comfortable with everything yet. But yeah, I think a lot of it kind of falls on his shoulders, and that offense just not clicking right now.
Absolutely. One thing that I do want to mention, like I said, we've talked about a couple of the teams struggling. Arizona State. Look, I think there was a lot of people that had Arizona State picked at the very bottom of this conference, very bottom. And here they are, 2-0. Now, I'm not saying that they've beaten a bunch of world beaters. I mean, Wyoming lost a coaching staff, but they embarrassed them. They did exactly what you're supposed to do to a Wyoming team like that. Mississippi State, again, I'm not saying Mississippi State is world beaters, but the perception around the country is that, it's an SEC team, which a lot of people have been saying for years the SEC is top heavy and Mississippi State is at the bottom of that. But they beat them. So I like what Arizona State is putting together. A lot of people had talked about, their non-conference schedule is just going to be the death of them. They're not going to get to 3 wins. Well, they're already at 2. So got to be happy about what's going on, Michelle, at Arizona State right now.
Well, again, and we kind of talked about this last week, especially when you look at what it's been like for them since 2019, 2020. Yeah. They've just been a mess. And so who knows what happens the rest of the way, but to have that little glimmer of hope, I think if you're an ASU fan, you have to love that. You have to feel like you're on the right track with how things have kind of progressed so far this season.
Mm-hmm. Brien, I'd like to jump in here, guys, and I'll open this, I guess, up for everybody, but they're a 1-point favorite. I'm sure we're going to get into that, but they're a 1-point favorite on the road at Texas State this week. I would find it hard to believe that if you were to make the hypothetical lines going into the season, that they would be favorites. I think they'd be underdogs if you look at the lines before the season, and now they're favorites on the road at Texas State. Now, granted, it's 1 point. I really don't know what that means. I don't know how good Texas State is. I know that they're solid. Obviously, they've had 2 pretty good games. They beat UTSA, a solid UTSA team. But yeah, they embarrassed them. And so I'm interested to see what that game looks like on Thursday night, because that could be a really, really nice win for the Big 12, because it kind of cements that, hey, the bottom of the Big 12 might not be as bad as people like to say. And just like you were talking about with the SEC, Brien, if the Big 12 can have teams who consistently win 5 games, the Arizona States of the world, if that's the bottom of your conference, you know what? That's a pretty good conference.
Kind of like their quarterback play right now too. Hasn't turned it over. Probably more of a runner than people thought. He's got, I think in 2 games, probably like close to maybe 120 yards. He scrambled. You can do some design stuff with him. And when your running back is taking it 30 times a game, probably helps to give him a break every so often. We'll see how much tread he has in his tires too. And their defense hasn't been put in bad spots. Turnovers on the road be really important. I got a feeling that Texas State's going to be a hornet's nest, like football in Austin. That's not Austin, but it's darn close. That's a pretty big deal right now. And that's not a program that ever gets to indulge in that. I would imagine that that's going to be a pretty wild environment, and good luck to Arizona State coming out of that one. It's going to be points at a premium, maybe, but also that could be one of those where it goes crazy and then both teams score a lot too.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see that game. It's coming up on Thursday. There's a lot of talk that Texas State is the best technically group of 5 team in the country. And going back to your point, Cole, is 2 weeks ago, we can talk about all off season, but just 2 weeks ago, there's not a person on earth that would have thought Arizona State would be favored in this football game. Not a person on earth. And here we are 2 weeks later, and they're favored on the road. I don't know, Cody. I think it means something in the trajectory of where the program is. I like where Arizona State's sitting. I don't know if they can win, but I definitely like where they're headed.
Well, yeah, like Michelle talked about, I mean, this program was an absolute mess when Dillingham took over. So, I mean, the fact that he's had to deal with all that, everything they went through last year with that, what was it, the postseason ban? Obviously, they weren't gonna make it to a bowl game, but you get that during like fall camp. I mean, the players are like, okay, what are we playing for now? He's brought in some good transfers. So yeah, I think, yeah, you've got to feel good about the trajectory of this program.
Yeah, I think you do. So we're going to take a quick break right here. We'll be right back on the other side of this, and we'll get into a couple of little storylines. So we'll be right back here. Thanks for joining us on Big 12 Insiders Game Day.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
All right, welcome back to Big 12 Insiders Game Day. Again, this is your man, Big D, Brien Hanley. Appreciate it. So let's take a look here at some of the storylines and maybe what some of y'all's most intriguing storylines of the week have been so far. So we could always talk about Deion. I mean, the craziness that is going on with Colorado about how the Deion supposedly has told the band not to play the fight song after touchdowns by Shador. I think that's nuts. First of all, I don't know that that's even true, but if it is, Deion, what are you doing? I kind of think that the Lance Leipold wife's tweet I think that is wild. And I believe that it happened because why did it get deleted? If somebody hacked your account or it supposedly didn't come from her account. Well, if it didn't, then how did it get deleted? Because if I hack into somebody's account, I'm not taking it down. Or if it came from somebody else's account, they're not going to take it down. And it did. I'm like, I don't know. What about you, Mike? What do you think about something like that? First of all, let me kind of set the stage with the tweet. They were showing a picture of Nebraska and what it looked like on Saturday. And it did look incredible. It looks incredible of what was going on in Nebraska. Good for them for finally getting back to maybe some relevance. We'll see. Kirk Herbstreit says it's incredible. Kelly Leipold says, crazy if we could only be at a place where the fans actually care to pack it. I mean, that is incredible. But who knows?
All right, I have thoughts. First of all, it's Kansas. Just blame TJ Gasnola and you're out of jail. No problem at all, right? Scapegoat.
There you
That's
go.
what they like to do there, right? Have you been to a game at Kansas before?
Have I?
Most people probably haven't. And if you
No,
have,
they haven't.
It's not a carnival.
No.
It's not it's a very concrete and it's like just boring environment. The team's fun, fine, but it's not a great place to go to or easy to get to or park around. So I get that. Brien, I shame on you though. You've done a disservice to the black market of people who hack coaches' wives' Twitter accounts. I thought everybody knew this. It's ninjas, sorcery, right? Listen, she clearly has a burner. Clearly, yeah. I would tell you that most coaches' wives have thought about it. Many Absolutely. Do have it. A lot of coaches have burners.
Yep.
And they frequently screw it up and they forget to change their identities. Yep. So there's some plausible deniability there. It wasn't me, it was my burner. She's not wrong. Give her a break. She got caught red-handed. What can you do?
That has to be the biggest oh crap moment. I mean, yeah. I've never done that before. I can truthfully, hand on the Bible, say I do not have a burner account. But if I did, I could only imagine the level of stress that Kelly Leipold was going through when she sent send tweet, because she knew that she just caused her husband and everyone in the Kansas football program a bunch of headaches, because best believe that every single person inside of that building saw that tweet, and he probably got multiple text messages and phone calls from his bosses about it. And I mean, is that the feeling of a coach's wife who wants to see her husband succeed, or is that really what it boils down to, or is that the feeling inside of that household? because Lance Leipold has made it very clear that he wants Kansas fans to show up. He wants Kansas fans to be loud. Heck, he even basically threw all his chips at the center of the table and said, you got to build a new stadium and I need a new contract or else I'm going to go somewhere else. And so is that the feeling inside of the household, or is that just the feeling of the coach's wife? Maybe I'm looking maybe I'm digging too deep into a tweet, but I that's kind of the thoughts that immediately went to my head.
I don't know, Cole, but Michelle, I think I'll answer this. Is Lance Leipold has opportunity. If that's the way that they really feel in the household, he had his opportunity to go to other places where they're packing the stadium week in and week out, and he didn't go. So that's my whole thing. If that's how they really feel, well, you should have just left.
Yep.
But you didn't do that. So I don't know. It becomes tricky at this point. It's just really weird, man. It's weird.
Did you know that Kansas filled 91% of their seats last year?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
It's a little skewed because it's a smaller stadium, but like it's not like they weren't backing it up. If the NCAA data is right on this, and I'm assuming it is, they have the record keeping. You can go look it up. They were at 91% of their capacity last year.
I mean, but if you paid attention to Kansas at all, I mean, last year there were people going to those football games. I mean, they showed up. In the previous years, maybe when they weren't winning as much, but last year people went to the game. So yeah. I think the data is correct. They were selling out and they were playing well. It's just I don't know. I don't know, Michelle. It's just weird to me. It was really weird.
I mean, I can tell you as someone that has had to bounce back and forth, not a burner account, but just like an account for the place that I'm covering versus like my own personal account. Like it is a little bit stressful. Man, did I hit on the right one? Because if I like send this off on the wrong one, I'm cooked. But it's I think that's entirely plausible. I bet she does have a burner account, and I'm pretty sure it got sent to the wrong account. But to your point, yeah, if that's how you feel in your house, whether it's, I mean, she doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of say in it, but if that's the collective feeling in the house, then yeah, you had opportunities to leave. What are you still doing there? If that's how you feel. Right. So it's kind of a monster of your own doing that you're still there. And if you truly do feel that way, and people just be so careful. If you're juggling multiple accounts, make sure you pick the right one. I think that's the lesson here.
It's just careless, man. Careless. Well, Cody, look, let's change the subject. Let's talk about Deion just for a quick second.
Yes.
What's he doing? I mean, seriously, what is he doing? I have tried to be a supporter of Coach Prime. I've tried. But at this point, again, we don't know if this is true, and we're not going to know for another week or two because they don't play at home this week. But if this is really true and what's going on, at what point does the administration at Colorado say enough is enough? I don't think it's anytime soon, because as long as the money keeps rolling in, they're not going to stop. So what is going on? What's Deion doing? What's he trying to prove with all of this?
I mean, there's a lot of people that think that Deion's just in it to get his sons to the NFL and get Travis Hunter to the NFL.
Right.
And the farther along this goes, that kind of seems more like the case. He doesn't recruit high school guys. It's all transfer portal guys. And even a lot of the transfer portal guys they get aren't great. A lot of them were backup guys that couldn't see the field where they came from. And I think you're starting to see that, the talent level just isn't there. Obviously, this past transfer portal class was better than the first one they had. But, I mean, Nebraska pushed them around on both the offensive line and defensive line. And that was supposed to be the place where they got better this year. And it was clear that they're still not great. So yeah, I think there's a lot of all that hype that was there at this time last year. I think they were in the top 25 at this point last year. All that's kind of fallen off. And I think now there's sort of this reality mode of, okay, when is it going to start to look better? And I'm not sure it's gonna.
Big red flag from me. I mean, apart from like just the obvious stuff that stands out, but when he screwed up with Sean Lewis last year, his offensive coordinator, he pulled from an FBS job. That was a highly regarded coach in the industry. among like in recruiting circles, like in like where I'm from in West Virginia, the Ohio area, like a lot of high school coaches see him and really like him and thought he was going to be an FBS head coach before, like a Power 5 head coach before long. Takes that obscure step where you leave a MAC job to be the coordinator in the Power 5. More and more common now. But he's on the rocket, the Deion Sanders rocket. And that thing didn't go this way. It went this way and then that way. And now he's the head coach. It went all the way down right there. And now he's the head coach at San Diego State. But that was a warning sign to me that his management here is probably suspicious and it should be watched. And everything that's followed that hasn't been a disaster. His marketing and branding is great. He has put together good rosters despite some of those obstacles you just mentioned, Cody. But like, where's the proof that it's actually working? It's not on the field.
Right.
Signs that it's not off the field either. That's a problem right there because you only play the game on and off the field. There's no third dimension here if you're an athletic director or a fan.
And guys, too, like my thing with this whole thing at Colorado is there is a disconnect somewhere, right? Somewhere inside of the locker room, there is obviously a disconnect. There's no disconnect between Deion and Shedeur and Shiloh and Travis and his and all of, for lack of a better, for all of the skill players, they are all bought in and on the same page. I mean, they have some legitimate skill players, but the interior offensive line and the interior defensive line is just plain out hard to watch. I mean, Nebraska was getting to Sanders with 3 linemen, with 4 guys. I mean, they were consistently in the backfield all night long. And the fact that Deion had to pull Shedeur off the field with 2 minutes left to go in the game, I think is not being talked about enough. And it's being talked about a lot, but it's not being talked about enough because he understood that, not only was he getting beat up by his offensive line, but in his words, he was protecting Shedeur from the fans rushing the field. And guys, in my personal opinion, you know what? If you lose and you're good enough for fans to storm the field, you should be out there for that. And maybe that's just an old man, get off my lawn type of take. And maybe there's another, and Big B, you might disagree with me on that, but that to me is just very odd. And it just made me, it made me kind of cringe because it really looked like he was placing his own son above the rest of his team.
I don't think there's any argument against that. I mean, the actions keep indicating that, right? You see some of the behavior issues off the field, the watch stuff. Like no other guy on that team's getting away with that crap. No one else. Like they would get called out. So I think there is some clear favoritism, some nepotism, if you will, there that I'm sure probably irks and irritates the rest of the team. And to your point, when I worked with the Salt Lake Stallions, we had a quarterback that I am pretty sure our offensive line did not like because the coaches would constantly talk about, we don't know, we have like the best offensive line because we have all the Polynesians. Why are they not blocking for this guy? I was like, maybe check the attitude of the guy that's behind them because I don't think these guys always feel obligated to protect someone that's being a jerk to them. And I think you can clearly see this happening. But then there's so much that we could unpack here. Then you have coaches also on camera being caught fighting. And one of them was a former Utah guy. Like you just can't have that. And I will say last year I had an NFL scout tell me that a guy that had been playing for Sanders briefly over the summer, transferred somewhere else, called the place a circus. And that's not exactly a rising endorsement of what's going on in Boulder.
No, it's just, it doesn't look good. I'm not sure it gets better. You've all kind of made your point and they're all exactly correct. But the main thing is on the field, look, you can have all the skill players that you want, but when your offensive line, I'm not even saying their offense and defensive lines are average or below average. They're awful, and they're getting pushed around every single week. You can't win that way, man. It's just impossible. Michelle, I'm going to come back to you before we start picking games. Cam Rising, injury to Cam Rising, I think is a big deal, but maybe it's not as a big deal. We don't know a ton, or maybe we do know. That's why I'm coming to you. We saw him get hurt. It was a wild play. It just getting hurt on the sideline, getting tackled into a cooler, which my first thought, look, I played college football. my first thought was, why the hell is a cooler that close? It just didn't make sense to me. That was literally my first thought. But how are things going with Cam, if you know, with his injury?
Well, as of Saturday, it didn't sound like it was terribly serious.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not missing some time, right? So it's been interesting. It's been very quiet on that front. Nobody's really saying anything, but that's how Kyle Whittingham likes it. He doesn't like that stuff getting out. He's very good at straddling the 50-yard line on things like that. I'll tell you what will happen if we have to go this direction, but if we have to go this direction, I'll tell you that as well. So it's kind of hard to know what exactly is going on. I suspect we might see Cam for like a quarter, just to maybe even gauge where he's at with that hand injury, and then take him out and let the young guy do his thing, because they're not playing anyone that they should be losing to with or without Cam. So I think it's a good opportunity to maybe test where your starter is, gauge how he's maybe going to be heading into a much bigger game the week after. But also allowing your young guy to get some very valuable reps, because, again, it can't be spoken about enough. Isaac Wilson is most likely Utah's future after Cam Rising is done this year. So you got to get him ready to go too.
Zach Wilson's brother, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
There we go.
He looks just like him too.
Yeah, he does.
They do look strangely alike. Yes, they definitely look related for sure.
All right, we're going to take one quick break. We'll come right back, and then we're going to start picking some of these games for this weekend. So appreciate everybody sticking around. You'll want to stick around for this. This is the Big 12 Insiders Game Day.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
All right, welcome back to Big 12 Insiders Game Day. Again, this is your man, Big B, Brien Hanley. Look, we're going to pick some of these games. Well, not some of them. We'll pick all of them today. Cody, I'll start with you. Arizona State going to Texas State. We talked about this one earlier. Arizona State, like I said, I don't think there's a person on earth 2 weeks ago that thought they'd be favored in this game, but they are. It's -1.5. Where do you like the Sun Devils in this one?
Yeah, so like we talked about, Texas State, they beat UTSA last week. Texas State is really good. I think they're legit. Our Brad Crawford has them as the Group of 5 participant or qualifier, I guess, in the playoffs. So yeah, I mean, if Arizona State's able to win this, it would be a big win for the Big 12. But in the preseason, I picked Arizona State to win. But I'm actually going to flip my pick and go with Texas State this week, just because I think, like you mentioned, that atmosphere in Texas State at their home stadium is going to be off the charts. I think it's going to be really hard for Arizona State to go in there, and just kind of the young team that they have. So yeah, I'm going to go with Texas State, but I think it'll be close.
Gotcha. Mike, who do you got?
I'm going to go Texas State too. I just feel like that Arizona State's play clean. That's hard to do in the road. It's going to be a tough place. And I just wonder about Scatterbo getting 30+ carries on a short week. They played late and then a Thursday game. That's going to be tough to do. And if they don't run it, quarterback's going to have to do things. And that stresses him to do stuff he hasn't had to do or wanted to do yet. And I just wonder about that. And that Texas State defense lies around a little bit. Again, really impressive last weekend. So what they did against a pretty good UTSA team.
Gotcha.
By the way, I was looking at this. Every Big 12 team, there's 9 Big 12 teams that are on the road this week, and 8 are favored. Arizona is not favored, but they're at Kansas State. So
correct.
Every one of these games except one, the Big 12 road team is favored. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's weird. Michelle, who do you like in this one?
I really love what Arizona State's been doing, but I do question how much they've been tested to this point, and it feels like Texas State is a good test, and especially being on the road and in their environment. I want to believe in Arizona State, but I think this is a game that Texas State walks away with. I do agree, perhaps a close game, but I think their luck maybe runs out this week.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna also agree with everyone here on the panel, which is the kiss of death, of course. So I'm gonna take Texas State. You know what I always say in the NFL, and Big B, you probably will agree with me on this, but it's really hard to win on the road on a short week. Like it's really hard to win on the road in a short week, especially when, as Cody, as you talked about earlier in the show, they're going in to an extremely hostile environment. When was the last time Texas State played on ESPN? I don't know that they have. And so they're going to be fired up for that game. So I think the Bobcats get it done.
Yeah, it's not just that. Also, what Mike mentioned, the Arizona State game was over late.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, that game started late. It ended late. Now you're going on a short week on the road. It's not a short trip by any means. It's going to be tough. But you know what? I'm breaking the mold. I'm taking Arizona State. Damn it. I'm doing it. I'm just taking them. Cole, I'm coming right back to you, man. So Kansas State hosts Arizona. Kansas State 7.5-point favorite. They look flat out. They played bad last week. They got away with one. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. They found a way to win the game, but it was not a good game. Arizona, though, on the other hand, they didn't play well either. So we'll see. I think it's the best game of the week, to be honest with you guys, between two ranked teams. Who do you like in this one?
Honestly, it comes down to coaching for me in this game as to who I think is going to win. Who do I like more, Brent Brennan or Chris Kleiman? And Chris Kleiman has shown that he's able to win these tough games against tough opponents on the big stage, especially at home. Very good record at home, especially against good teams. So I think K-State gets the job done. I still, quite honestly, am a little undecided as far as the spread goes. If I had to lean, I'd probably lean Arizona in a higher scoring game. But I do think that K-State will win, and fans in Manhattan will be a lot happier than they were this past Saturday.
Gotcha. Michelle, who do you like in this one?
This one feels like a bit of a toss-up, and I feel like both teams are probably going to go into this feeling like they need to prove themselves a little bit, because last week was very disappointing for both teams. I'm going to roll K-State mostly because they're at home. And I think that makes a huge difference. Again, short week, a little bit shorter week,
right?
A bit of a place to travel to for Arizona. I'll lean K-State, but I don't know. I could see this one going either way.
You like Mike?
I'm going to go Kansas State too. I really agree with Cole that this is a coaching game here, and like Kansas State's not that bad, right? And that's a guy who pulls it together. I think Brent Brennan's going to be good. I had a lot of people tell me like he needs good ingredients and he can cook, and maybe he's got them right now. But I like Kleiman, and here's a simple thing: Dylan Edwards has 12 touches in 2 games. It's not going to last. They're going to get him touches, and this might be the game they get him going, and that'll make everybody happier. The offense starts rolling again. You have fewer questions. You have more answers, just like the way this turns for them here.
Got it. And Cody, who do you like in this one?
Yeah, I actually think K-State might be able to run kind of all over Arizona. Arizona's given up, I guess, more than 4 yards per carry right now, and that's against some lesser opponents. Kansas State's averaging almost double that, I think. I think Kansas State. I think they win this one close. I think Arizona covers that spread. I think it's up to like 7.5 now. Arizona's got the longest active winning streak in the country. So, I mean, I think that gets snapped. But kind of just to make a point here, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing that this is not an actual conference game this week. But I think regardless, I think it's good to see 2 of the top contenders in a primetime spot nationally then for the Big 12.
Yeah, it's a big game for both. Like I said, it's Friday night. I don't necessarily like it because I like high school football. I live in Texas, but I grew up on high school football. So I don't necessarily like it, but I do like it for the Big 12 because, look, here's an opportunity to be on national TV. 2 ranked teams, they got to take the opportunities when they get it. So I understand why they did it. I'm going the other way. It's not that I don't think Kansas State's going to win. I do. I think they may put it on Arizona a little bit. I think they're going to be able to run the football. I don't know that this one's going to be that close. I just think this is a classic K-State game, holding stuff back on offense, holding back, and then they just unleash a ton. So we'll see. This next one, this is tricky. KU hosts UNLV. Look, KU coming off of a loss. They're not playing at home. They're playing at the soccer stadium in Kansas City. So there's only going to be 20,000 people there. So it's not even that KU has a smaller stadium. They do, but they're not playing there. They haven't played that great offensively. They definitely didn't last week, throwing the football especially. And UNLV just put up 70 points, and they can score. Tricky game here, Cody. Tricky game.
Yeah, UNLV really likes to run the ball. I think they're tied with UCF for second nationally in rush attempts this year. They had like over 500 yards on the ground last week against Utah Tech when they put up 72 points, which is just kind of ridiculous. But like I mentioned earlier, for Kansas, that Jalen Daniels has to play better. And I think you're seeing some effects of Andy Kotelnicki leaving and just kind of getting comfortable. And I know the offense isn't completely changed or anything like that, but you've got a different play caller, and I think he's just needs to get more comfortable with that. He's got 3 touchdowns and 4 interceptions through 2 games, which isn't the ratio that I think people were expecting. But I'm still going to go with Kansas. I think their run defense will kind of force UNLV to throw it a little bit more and maybe get them out of their comfort zone.
Gotcha. Who do you like in this one, Michelle?
I mean, I think what UNLV has done so far is impressive. But I don't know. I mean, Houston's not great. Utah Tech is a lower division.
Yeah.
So, how much do you take from that? I think UNLV will give Kansas everything they got, and I think they may push them really hard. But I think it might be the wake-up call that Kansas kind of needs to get things going. So I'm going to go with Kansas.
Gotcha. Who do you like, Cole?
This is a tough one because I really want to say Kansas, but there's that part of me that has seen Kansas before, and I understand that they've done an outstanding job the past few seasons. But let's not discount that this is a revenge game for UNLV, and it's not even a true road game. I mean, this is a rematch from the bowl game at the end of the season last year, which was a really good game. Kansas ultimately pulled away from, but that was when Jason Bean was at quarterback, guys, and Jalen Daniels was not good in the first quarter against Lindenwood. He played the second quarter, didn't see the field in the second half because they were up by so much, and had 4 really bad quarters. I need to see it more from Jalen Daniels until I feel totally confident. I think UNLV covers the spread. I think Kansas maybe wins. Maybe it's saying like a walk-off field goal. I think it's going to be extremely close, and it really would not surprise me if UNLV walks into Children's Mercy Park in Kansas City, Kansas, the new home of the Kansas Jayhawks, and wins this game.
I'd feel a lot better about UNLV. Like, I don't know Jaden Maivia, but I'm mad at Jaden Maivia. Like, that's the transfer that I just don't like.
Yep.
I really wish it wasn't at USC. Like, this would be a fun team. Their quarterback's okay, but he's from Holy Cross, I believe.
Yeah.
And just not ready for it. I'll say this: Kansas better play clean. Like, if they turn over and if Daniels isn't, like, they're in trouble, I think they'll win this game. But like, I don't think you can underestimate giving Barry Odom like a quick turnaround against Kansas, getting them in a bowl game and prolonged prep. I guarantee you they spent a lot of time on Kansas last week and the week before because they did not have to worry about that game last week. They're going to have everything scouted. If Kansas messes around, if they fumble it, they turn it over, they get 3 and outs or whatever. If Brendan Marion has something on offense that he can run and get the quarterback going and continue to use those running backs, that is a definite upset watch there. I think UNLV has some good defensive players they brought in from the portal that are just getting their legs right now. And again, give them 2 weeks with a good defensive head coach. That is a scary spot for Kansas. I just think Kansas, I think if you believe in Kansas, you like him here. But if you think the milk's gone bad, then you probably look at UNLV. I'm not out on Kansas yet. I think they win this one, but I'm not feeling good about it.
Yeah, I'm in on Kansas. It's still, I think this game will be closer than anticipated. I think they cover. It's -7. I think Kansas gets it rolling. I don't know, Cole. You mentioned that it's not a true road game. I'm not sure how many UNLV fans are going to be coming from Vegas down to Kansas City for the game when the stadium is about 15 minutes away, 20 minutes away from Lawrence campus. So I don't know. I like Kansas. I mean, I don't think they're going to blow them out by 30 or anything. I think they may cover 10 points, but Mike, you're right. Got to play clean. UNLV is a better team than what people anticipate. Moving to Saturday. Now, look, this one, Tulsa, they don't have a lot. Oklahoma State going on the road. I know why they're playing this game. I get it. Favored by 20. I think Oklahoma State just walks all over them. Mike, how do you see this one? I don't think it's really going to be that close.
I'm not putting a stamp on anything with Mike Gundy's name in non-conference play.
Yeah.
And like there's just something with the quarterback and the offense I don't like right now. I'd like to see them press the ball down the field, and you just don't see that with Bowman very often. Last week was tricky. That probably should have been easier than it was, but they made it difficult, and they probably should have lost. They ended up winning. So for me, it's hard to get a read on them right now. I think they're better than Tulsa. I actually like they're playing the game in Tulsa. I think it's okay for Power Fives to go on the road in a series like that. It might be good for them too, just to get away from shadow. Yeah. I think Oklahoma,
high school football. I know why they're playing there. It makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm. I think Oklahoma State's good enough. They should win it, but I've seen the show before, and I have my questions about Oklahoma State every year in September, and ultimately their answer, because the coach is good and they pull it together in conference play. But for me, I can't rubber stamp anything with them in conference play, so I won't. I think they'll win, but if you told me this time next week that Mike, you were wrong, I'd be like, well, I kind of warned you too.
Yeah. Who do you like, Cody?
Yeah, so I've learned to overreact to Oklahoma State struggling in non-conference games. Last year, they got blown out by South Alabama. They went to the Big 12 title game. In 2021, they beat Missouri State, Tulsa, and Boise State by a touchdown or less, and they went to the Big 12 title game that year. So yeah, Mike Gundy's always going to figure out a way. I think he's kind of learned not to show a whole lot in non-conference schedule. And I mean, yeah, they always figure out a way. So yeah, I'm going to take Oklahoma State. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's, less than 2 touchdowns.
And Cole, who do you like in this one?
I agree. If there was a retweet button on this show, I would retweet everything that Mike and Cody just said. I think Tulsa covers, but Oklahoma State wins.
Got it. Who do you like, Michelle?
I mean, we'll just keep it real simple because we already went over this stuff. I like Oklahoma State in this game. Tulsa could maybe make it interesting, but I don't really see that happening.
I don't either. The one thing that Oklahoma State does have to figure out how to do is run the ball with Ollie Gordon. They haven't been able to really do that. They definitely couldn't do it last week. So they got to figure that out a little bit, but I think they win this one. Cincinnati at Miami of Ohio. I'm going to wait for you guys to pick this one because, like I said, the UC fans are already furious at me. They're furious. So I'm going to let you guys start. Cody, I'll go with you. Who do you like, Cincinnati at Miami of Ohio?
Yeah, Miami had 2 weeks to prepare for this, I believe. I think they were off last week and got to watch Cincinnati collapse in the second half. So, yeah, I think Miami's probably feeling a little good about this game. I think they beat them last year, didn't they?
They did in overtime. Overtime, double overtime. I think.
So they've got to feel pretty confident going into this one. But I'm still going to go with Cincinnati. Miami gave up forced action their opener at Northwestern, and I think with Cincinnati getting Dante back on the big defensive tackle, I think getting him back last week and getting some more reps that I think he'll be able to create some havoc. And yeah, I'm gonna go with Cincinnati.
Gotcha. Who do you like in this one, Michelle?
This is another kind of toss-up. Just because I'm feeling the Big 12 spirit, let's go Cincinnati. But I don't know. Miami of Ohio could make this interesting. The spread's not that big on this one.
No, -3.5. Cincinnati is favored.
That's not great.
No,
that's not great.
No. Who do you like in this one, Cole?
You know what? I'm going to pick Miami. I think that they beat them last year, obviously, and sure, it's a different team. But again, the Cincinnati fans get mad at you, Big B. They're probably going to get mad at anybody else who picks Miami in this game. But if you lose both games to Miami in consecutive seasons, you're not long to be the head coach at a Power 5 school. I think that's what happens going on the road. And I don't know if Scott Satterfield, if he loses that game, does he get to coach the next one? That might be a hot take, but losing 2 games to Miami of Ohio sure seems like something you might not recover from.
All right, Mike, who do you like?
I bought so much stock in Cincinnati this offseason. I don't know what to do with it. Would you guys like some?
Nope.
I love what they did with the roster in the portal. Like, I don't think people realize what a mess their roster was and he inherited. Like, Fickle just didn't recruit the last year or two there, and he had a big problem on his hands, and he got out. Good for him. That was Satterfield's mess, and Satterfield doesn't appear equipped to do it. I could absolutely see. I mean, Indiana's got a good quarterback and really good receivers, and I saw like what Pitt did to their secondary last week, especially when they got rolling in the second half. That was trouble. But Pitt probably should have lost that game. There was a really bizarre penalty late in the game that gave them a magical first down. So this could be a totally different story. If they win that game despite blowing a lead, you feel different. I'm giving Satterfield one last chance here. I think they're better. I guess a revenge game for Cincinnati, which is a weird thing to say. I just feel like they have this one here. But again, like I think Miami can cause some serious problems against their defense too.
You know what? I'm going to pick Cincinnati as well. You know, I wanted to pick Miami and make them even more mad at me, but I'm not going to do it this time. Mike, I think you're right. I think Cincinnati's just better. And I think that'll play out. Look, they got to win this football game. You can't lose 2 years in a row to Miami, Ohio, can you? I mean, I guess you can, but gee, many Christmas. North Texas at Texas Tech. Next game. Look, I have no idea what's going on with Tech. I didn't think they were going to finish, in the upper half of the division, but they have looked lousy. They didn't even look interested last week, and they got the doors blown off of them. And maybe this is what they need. I don't know, but I wouldn't sleep on Texas Tech. This is going to be a big game for them, even though it's on the road. Tech minus 9.5. I like Tech, but I don't know, Cole. Who do you like?
This is a tough game, Brian. Like, I don't think Texas Tech is very good, but they're a better team than North Texas. I don't think Joey McGuire is an amazing coach, but surely he's good enough to not lose 2 games in the non-conference, and probably should have been 3 games in the non-conference. I think Texas Tech wins this game. I think they cover because they have a lot of talent on that roster. But man, this is not a good start for Texas Tech, and they have to right the ship, and they have to do it quickly. I think maybe that starts on Saturday, but even if they win and cover, still things are not good in Lubbock right now.
No. What do you think, Mike?
Just give it to Taj Brooks as much as he can handle, and just hope that your quarterback's arm doesn't fall off. That would be a good thing right now for them. That's a team that, like, again, everybody loves the coach and they're having so much fun, but what have they really done? And they haven't solved a lot of the problems that they inherited too. Don't forget Chandler Morris is North Texas's quarterback. That guy knows how to spin it. Like, that's a guy who could throw for 400 something yards, and all of a sudden it's a game in the fourth quarter or they win. This is another one that scares me, frankly. Like, it's a weird thing, but I think it's going to be a pretty simple thing for the Texas Tech here. Like, Morton's got more passes and more yards than anybody in the conference right now. I'm not sure that's a great thing, especially when you have Brooks. I know Brooks missed a game and hasn't been healthy from the start. If he's got his legs, just ride him until, as far as you can, and just hope that you don't mess it up on the way to the end zone.
Yeah, what do you think, Michelle?
Yeah, I'm just looking at like what everybody's done so far. I want to say Texas Tech, but I don't know how they've kind of fared in their last couple of games. Gives me some pause. You know what? Just to make it fun, I'm going to go North Texas on this one. We'll see how it goes.
I like it. What about you, Cody? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I really expected more from Texas Tech this season. I actually thought they had the pieces and the schedule to start 5-0 in September. They could easily be 0-2 right now going into this game. I know Taj Brooks was out last week, so I think that really made a difference with their offense, kind of making it one-dimensional. I think he's questionable this week. It sounds like he should be back. But I think North Texas' strength offensively is Texas Tech's weakness on defense. If they can't find a way to slow down Chandler Morris, I think it could be another disappointing result for Tech. But I'm gonna go with Tech if Taj Brooks plays.
Gotcha. Yeah, I like I said, at some point Tech's got to turn this thing around, but maybe they don't. I don't know. I think this might be the week. It'll be tough. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. All right, Mike. West Virginia at Pitt. I still don't think Pitt's very good. I know they beat Cincinnati last week, but I think we all know how I think Cincinnati is. But West Virginia, I don't know if we really learned anything about them last week. So we'll see. I thought minus 2.5. That's tricky on the road, man. Who do you like?
I've been looking at this, and some of the stuff just doesn't make sense to me about how West Virginia's favored. Some of the matchups just are not going to go in their side if you're picking, one column or the other.
Right.
You're putting a lot of stock into 2 games against Kent State and Cincinnati, but again, I think Cincinnati's okay and they have a good enough defense. I just don't know how it got away from it. It's a weird thing, but they're going to give West Virginia secondary trouble. Albany gave West Virginia secondary trouble. The 24/7 sports staff would probably give West Virginia secondary trouble. And some of us can fling it. I understand that, but it'd be a good thing to see sometimes. I think Pitt at home with a pretty exciting offense that is going to play fast, is going to spread them out, and is going to ask questions that the secondary has to answer. That's a frightening prospect for West Virginia. They've had turnover troubles. They were not very good offensively against Penn State, and they did what they wanted against Albany. Pitt is more than in the middle. They're closer to Penn State than Albany. I do not like the spot for West Virginia, and just some of the talk for the first game of how they were anxious and nervous and weren't ready for the big stage. I don't know how that goes away, and I don't know how the same team is more prepared for a road game and a heated rivalry 2 weeks later. This all lines up for Pitt to win this one.
Gotcha. Cody, who do you like?
Yeah, I didn't really know who to pick in this one, but then hearing Mike, I'm not confident in West Virginia, so I'm going to go with Pittsburgh too. Pittsburgh quarterback Eli Holstein, I think it's been kind of a surprise for people outside of that program. He's a former top 150 recruit coming out of high school, went to Bama for a year and then transferred out. And I think he's kind of reignited that offense that was, I think, one of the worst in Power 5 last year. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh then, just kind of hearing what Mike had to say.
Oh boy.
Gotcha. Michelle, who do you like in this one?
Yeah, man, these are some hairy games we're picking this week. It's just because it's basically about as even as you can make it, just to make it interesting, and so we're all not saying the same thing. I'll give West Virginia the benefit of the doubt in this one. I don't know that I have a great reason for it other than just to mix it up a little bit, but I don't know. It feels like Pitt's maybe been surprising some people, but we'll just say that West Virginia pulls this one off.
I like it. Who you like, Cole?
I was kind of in the same boat as Cody. I probably was leaning towards picking West Virginia in this game. I want to see Garrett Green be successful because I love the brand of football that he plays. That guy is just a warrior. He's a hard-nosed football player, and I think he has the potential to be a good quarterback. We just haven't seen it yet. But again, man, this is one of the best rivalries in all of college football. People do not give it enough credit because this is one of the best rivalries in all of college football, a game that needs to happen every year. With that being said, I think Pitt wins this one.
Oof. I'm going West Virginia. I picked West Virginia to be a disruptor in the conference this year. I can't get off the bandwagon just yet. If they lose this game, I'll be off the bandwagon, but I can't get off just yet. So I'm going with West Virginia. Michelle, Utah at Utah State. I think this one's pretty so. I don't think Utah State's very good. I'll be honest, I haven't seen a lot. I have seen a lot of Utah, and I know they're very good. I got them easy.
Yeah, the game could potentially be a little bit more interesting if we see mostly the freshman Isaac Wilson in. But I think Utah's defense is so nasty
right,
that it's going to buy Isaac some wiggle room, and if it's Cam Rising, it's just a wrap. And
Gotcha.
It breaks my heart. I love the pig farmer. He was with Utah for forever, but I don't know that Bryson Barnes has enough horses around him at Utah State to pull that off. So it's definitely going to be Utah, and it's probably going to be pretty lopsided.
Gotcha. Who do you like, Cole?
I agree. Utah.
Got it. Mike?
I've enjoyed the Brant Queeth revival and the addition of Caleb Lohner, big tight end guy here. So give me more of the Utes.
Gotcha. And you, Cody?
Yeah, my biggest concern with Utah coming into the season was what would happen if Cam Rising got hurt and missed part of a game. And I think we saw that last week, that the offense still struggles without him. Now, I don't have a lot of confidence in Utah State to put up much of a fight in this one. So I think with or without Rising, that I think it should be a pretty comfortable win for the Utes.
Gotcha. Next up, Air Force at Baylor. Look, the game was getting out of hand in the first half with Cam Rising playing. If he stayed healthy, I think they put it on. It was just super deflating for not just the team, the coaching staff, the whole stadium. And they said it on air. I mean, it was a great conversation. I mean, it just didn't have the same pizzazz in Utah once he got hurt. And Baylor found a way to fight back. So good for them. I'm not sure how good Baylor's going to be this year, but I think they definitely have enough to beat Air Force, and I think they cover. And this is 15.5. I like Baylor big in this one, Cole.
Yeah, I think that spread's interesting because it depends on if Air Force can kind of bleed the clock a little bit as far as from a betting perspective. This could be a really frustrating game for sports bettors because there's a very good chance that this game is 21-7, right? Like the 15.5 is kind of a lot of points for a triple option team. And especially with the Air Force, who they have some talent. We've seen them have successful seasons over the years. Baylor's going to win. I believe that. But with that being said, I wouldn't surprise me if they are on a little bit of an upset alert, simply because if you can't stop the run against Air Force, they will find what play that works and they will expose you, and it could be ugly. Maybe not in terms of the score, but just painful to watch. I think Baylor wins, but this might actually be kind of a fun game to watch.
Gotcha. Who do you like in this one, Mike?
This better be Baylor. Otherwise, Air Force can give Dave Aranda a flight home to Hawaii. Air Force isn't very good. They've actually thrown it 34 times in 2 games. They just can't get their dives up the middle. I like option football, so I've watched it, and I've been kind of like, turned off. I don't want to watch this. It's not very fun. They beat Merrimack 21-6, and I was like, that's probably not a good sign. No. And they lost to San Diego State, which is in pretty much a total rebuild. So this should be Baylor, just an identity game for them. It might not be impressive, but they have to figure out who they are, who their players are, how they get in the ball, how they line up on defense, and it's probably step one in what's going to be a longer recovery, I think, for them.
Gotcha. And Michelle, who do you like?
Yeah, give me Baylor. Look, as someone that grew up watching a lot of Air Force games, and Kyle Whittingham just barely mentioned not too long ago, he doesn't miss playing them with that triple option. It can be a pain. But I don't know that the wheels are as greased for this particular Air Force team and their triple option. And I think Baylor's good enough to beat them.
Got it. Cody?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Baylor, but kind of piggybacking off the point that Mike said, these next 2 games against Air Force and Colorado, I think, are must wins for Dave Aranda. Otherwise, they're probably not making a bowl game if they drop one of these. And I mean, if they don't make a bowl game, I think Baylor has to kind of decide to move on at that point.
Gotcha. Next up, Colorado at Colorado State. Colorado's favored by 7. Again, it's weird that we're going to say this is kind of a revenge game for Colorado. They won the game last year, but we saw the cheap shot to Travis Hunter, the back and forth between the head coaches. I don't know. I think it's going to be fun, Mike. But I'll let you guys decide first before I decide. Who do you like?
I don't like anything I see about Colorado right now. Not the product on the field, not the way that they've carried themselves off the field. They're not good in any aspect. And again, like a culture thing, they won't run the ball. Like first coaches trying to get a culture, they run the ball. They don't. And they play a lot of close games too, not last week notwithstanding. They don't run the ball. That doesn't make sense to me. It's not they're playing catch up. I just think that, the momentum for Colorado State, they played Texas the first game. That makes them look bad by extension. This means a lot to them. I kind of like Norvell as a coach, probably more than Dion. This feels like it falls in Colorado State's side. It's at Colorado State. I think it's a really big deal. They've been waiting for this for a long time. Give me the Rams.
Gotcha. Who do you like in this one, Michelle?
I don't trust anything that Colorado or Deion Sanders is doing at the moment. And last year, that game was very, very fascinating. In fact, it was highly entertaining, both the on-the-field stuff and the off-the-field stuff. I think Colorado State pulls it off. It's in their place, and they were so close to pulling it off last year. I think they get it done this go-around.
Yeah. How do you like or see this one going, Cody?
Yeah, I think the big thing is how does Colorado respond to last week? Like I said, I was kind of shocked at how bad they looked against Nebraska. Like I said, too, I mean, the O-line's still a major problem. They can't run the ball, and they can't keep letting Shedeur take hits, or at some point he's not going to get back up, and they're going to have to go to a different quarterback. Maybe in the back half of the season, if this keeps up, he just realizes it's not worth it, and he makes a business decision and shuts it down. That'll probably affect his draft stock or so, but I do think Colorado beats Colorado State pretty comfortably. But like I mentioned, there's still a lot that needs to be fixed before that Big 12 schedule starts for them.
Yep. You, Cole?
So I think we're going to see if Jay Norvell's quarterback is worth $500,000 in the transfer portal or not. And seriously, though, he's not bad, but I think Colorado State, again, kind of what we've been talking about, this is a game that they have circled on their calendar. If they win this game and do not win a single game the rest of the season, it was a successful game. It was a successful season for Colorado State. This is going to be one of the most fun games, I think, in the conference this week, and maybe even in the non-conference slate for the entire conference all year. So I think Colorado State wins this game. If you're going to be a sports bettor, I would probably bet this game to go to overtime. It just feels like this is going to be a dramatic affair. And I think Colorado State has a great chance to win.
Right. I didn't even look at the over-under, but I bet it's pretty high. And if I was betting, I would take the over. I don't know about that, Cole. If Jay Norvell, if they only win one game and that's it, I'm not sure Jay Norvell would be able to survive. Although it's a huge game, I'm not sure he's surviving just one win after what they've been going through. Having said all of that, I like Colorado. I like what you said about it, Cody. I think they win kind of they need to win handily. But there's some things that need to be fixed. It just doesn't look – there is nothing good coming out of Colorado. It's literally the exact opposite of last year. While football people knew that they weren't going to be that good because their lines were terrible, at least you got the good vibes coming out of Colorado. You're not even getting that anymore. And now it's just an absolute madhouse. I think they got to win this game to save their season. I really do, because you look at their schedule, it's not the easiest. And I think people are, if they're trying to get to a bowl game or to 6 wins, this is a win. It's got to be a win. If not, it gets tricky after that. So next up, UCF. Look, I think the next one is the second best game and could even rival the Kansas State-Arizona game. UCF at TCU. Not a lot of people talking about this one, man. I like UCF. TCU, I'm not sure. But I know they're trying to rebuild their program, not necessarily rebuild it, but rebuild their reputation after last year having that fall off after going to the national championship game, Cody. I like UCF. I think they're better. I think they have better players, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I think just what you said. I think this game is actually flying under the radar from a national level. I think it's definitely one of the best in the Big 12 this week. 2 of the top scoring offenses in the Big 12. UCF obviously loves to run the ball with that Gus Malzahn offense. And Josh Hoover for TCU has looked really solid despite missing pretty much all the spring, I think. But I'm really curious to see how this UCF defense looks. They allowed only 17 points in the first 2 games, obviously against lesser opponents. But Ted Roof coming over from Oklahoma, I think he worked on the same Auburn staff with Malzahn when they won the title with Cam Newton, I think. But yeah, I think this is the first real test to see if this UCF defense has improved. But I'm still going to stick with TCU, just being at home.
Gotcha. What do you think about this one, Michelle?
I mean, looking at who they've played, who both teams have played, I think TCU is a little more proven at this point than UCF. And I have to say, UCF has done a really good job getting good players in the transfer portal, but I'm leery of teams that build themselves off of the transfer portal, because so far I haven't really seen one that it's worked terribly well. So this is going to be an interesting one, I think, to see exactly where UCF maybe stands and how that project has kind of come together. I'm also going with TCU. They're at home. Again, I think they've played just slightly better opponents. And I think we know where we stand with them a little bit more than UCF.
Gotcha. Cole, who do you got?
It's very hard to win at Amon G. Carter Stadium at night. It's very hard to walk in there and win. That place is one of the more underrated atmospheres, I think, in the conference. With that being said, this UCF team is really fast, and they were really fast last year. They had a great start to the season last year, and then kind of tapered off towards the end. This is gonna be a great game. I am gonna pick TCU because of the home field advantage. I like Josh Hoover. I liked him. I had a chance to watch him play when they came to Manhattan last year. I really like him. I think he's got a chance to be special. I don't know how good TCU is going to be this year, but I do think they get this game.
Got it. Who do you like, Mike?
Love UCF's offense here. They're running the ball like crazy. I know everybody got really excited about them getting Penny Boone. I forgot they got Miles Montgomery from Cincinnati, and he's got like 10 carries and 130 yards. Like, they run the ball and they run it some more, and then they'll run it a little bit more after that. And I'd like to see if TCU can stop that. That's a really great equalizer on the road. KJ Jefferson throwing on the road, not the best results in the past. I'd like to see him do more to the air so far. They haven't asked him to do a lot. He hasn't had to. Kobe Hudson can catch passes. What concerns me though is Hoover getting hot. UCF has a great front. Like, their defensive front's very good. They have 1 sack in 2 games. That's not going to get it done against UCF. This turns into a shootout. You just like the arm of Hoover more. I just think UCF style is going to prevail. They'll run the ball, probably control it. I would think it might not be high scoring. I just like their stable running backs and the fact that Jefferson can run.
Gotcha. And then 2 more. Rice at Houston. Look, Michelle, I think Houston. I'm a Willie Fritz fan. And look, I think the first week they got their head beaten in. I think, first of all, I think UNLV is a little better than what people anticipated, but I also think it was a little bit of guys left over from old regime, didn't want to listen, didn't necessarily want to do it his way. And he said, you know what? Go out there and do it. And they went and got their head beaten in. And then the next week they listen, they play OU. I'm not sure how good OU is. I'll just say that. But it's still OU. It's still on the road, and they had the ball with an opportunity to win at the end of the game. So I think Houston wins this game over Rice. Spread's only 4, but I like Houston to win.
Yeah, I mean, look, we already kind of talked about this. I don't think Houston's particularly great this year, but I do think they're better than their opponent this week in Rice.
Correct.
And so that's just kind of where it is.
Gotcha. Who do you like, Cody?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Houston too. I really like Willie Fritz. I think this program is kind of a sleeping giant a little bit, just because of the recruiting grounds that they have right there. And if they can get, everything aligned and get the right pieces in there, I think with what he can do as a coach, I think this program will be on the up here pretty soon. Yeah, like Josh Pate says, you can't lose to food. So yeah, let's not lose to Rice.
Absolutely. Who do you like, Mike?
Yeah, I'll just keep it simpler. I can't top that. Kelly Leipold would retweet that one, I think. So. So just give me Rice as not going to get it done on the road here. And yeah, I think the buy-in in Houston is pretty good so far, and that's an encouraging bounce back from them. So keep it going one more day.
Gotcha. And Cole.
Houston, Willie Fritz is going to do amazing things for them. He's an outstanding man. He's an outstanding coach. He had those guys ready to play against Oklahoma. I think they're going to win, and I think they're going to cover.
Absolutely. And then last one, BYU at Wyoming. Look, I went to the BYU game last week, and one of the things about them from the previous season, they just weren't physical. They couldn't match the physicality that was going on in the Big 12. Now, again, SMU is not in the Big 12. They're in the ACC, and they're just getting in there. But BYU was much bigger than they were, and if you paid attention or you watched the game at all, they beat them up on both sides of the line of scrimmage. I like BYU in this one. It's -11. I'm not sure where Wyoming's at, but the game's on the road, but I still like BYU. Who do you like, Cole?
Yeah, I think BYU finds a way to get this done. Wyoming, they've kind of had an interesting season. A lot of people picked them as an upset to beat Arizona State in week 1. They didn't do that. And then they had to come home and play Idaho, who is an FCS school, who also had just lost by 10 to Oregon the week prior. And so they got a really good Idaho team who they then lost to. Yes. And so how good is Wyoming for their level of football? I don't know. I think BYU wins it, but guys, would it really shock anyone if this was a close game? I think it could be. I think BYU wins, but Big 12 After Dark never fails to disappoint. I think this will be another good game.
Gotcha. Who do you like in this one, Mike?
One, Jason Eck, the Idaho coach. Don't sleep on him. How dare you?
Yeah, that's
very good. I don't like this situation for BYU because they've been a bit of a surprise so far. 2-0 is not outstanding, but I think some people will be surprised by 2-0. It's also back-to-back non-conference road games, and they get a home game next week against Kansas State. I could certainly understand they're looking ahead and they get caught up in this one here. I just don't think Wyoming has the horses to pull it off. So give me BYU, but I'm going to keep my eye on this one for just like style points and can they continue to be physical? They might not win by a lot, but they're going to leave their fingerprints all over you.
Gotcha. Michelle, who do you like in this one?
Well, I mean, first of all, things can get interesting in Laramie. And I do know that Wyoming does not particularly love BYU from the old Mountain West days. So, I mean, there's a little bit of that there as well. That being said, I don't think Wyoming has exactly lived up to expectations this year. Whereas BYU has exceeded them. I think they have fixed some of their physicality problems. I'm curious to watch BYU further down the road. Because I think they're very much like Utah was when they first entered power football, in that their ones can go with just about anybody, but what happens towards the end of the season when your depth starts getting tested? And I think that's where it could get hairy. For this week, I will go BYU, but I would not be surprised if we're not all raising an eyebrow at some point at what the score is from there.
Right. And Cody, who do you like in this one?
Yeah, I'm going to go BYU in a close one. Laramie, Wyoming is a really tough place to play. I don't know what the wind conditions are like up there, but if it's windy, that's probably not going to help anything. But yeah, I'm going to go with BYU just because I think I liked what they did last week against SMU. But also, I mean, I think it'll be close just because, like what Mike said, I mean, they might be in a kind of look ahead spot that they might get caught sleeping a little bit.
Yeah. I like BYU. I think they'll get more physical. I think that's how they're trying to play this year, is to be physical. So, well, I appreciate all of you guys being in here, man. Thank you guys for giving us your time on Big 12 Insiders Game Day, and thank everybody for listening. Again, remember to like, follow, subscribe, leave those comments. We appreciate it. We will be back with you next week. Until then, thank you.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.